Hi, I'm John Arana, and this is Karina San
Hey,
Martin.
everybody.
And we are here at the Drop once again.
Yes.
Dropping truth and bringing life.
That's what we're doing.
And I'll tell you what, we're going to talk about a subject that you don't hear much about this.
Yeah, you really don't.
You don't hear that much about this.
It's kind of like you have to learn how to do this when it happens.
When it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard for people to explain it. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're going to try to do.
Right, yeah. Yeah. To help you and help ourselves.
But no, you know, sometimes it's New Year, or you make new plans, or you set up new goals.
Have a new thing you're trying to do.
Or you have a new thing, and you know, sometimes people realize they're all excited and they go forward, and then boom, they start hitting obstacles.
Yeah. Yeah,
they start
those
hitting
roadblocks.
barriers,
Yeah.
roadblocks.
Things aren't working, Yeah.
Yeah, and then a lot of people start getting discouraged.
Yeah.
Because they're like, man, this is not happening. Now I got to deal with that. And I got to deal with that. And a lot of people get discouraged, and sometimes people even quit.
Right. Yeah.
Before they get through. And so one of the things that we've learned is through Brian Holiday,
Yes.
which is the author of a book called Obstacle is the Way.
Yeah.
A lot of what we're going to share today comes from his book.
Okay.
And so we want to give him credit, because in reality, he came up with a great concept here.
Yeah.
And so we're going to share some of it. Not all of it, obviously. If you want all of it, get the book.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And, or the audiobook, and I think you'll get a lot out of it.
Yeah, definitely.
But the concept here is that the obstacle, it's truly showing you the way. That's really the premise.
That's so good.
Of this book.
Yeah.
And of this principle. And I thought, man, that is so good.
That is
Because sometimes, you know, you're going and you think you're going to walk in through a door, but that door is closed.
Yeah, right.
And you think like, oh, well, it's closed, so I might as well go around. But no. It's that closed door that's showing you the way.
Sure.
Now, when is it going to open up? How it opens up? How you get through?
Yeah.
That's all part of what we're going to talk about today.
And I really like this concept too, because it kind of, reminds me of that phrase that you hear a lot. At least I felt like I heard a lot from you growing up, and it says, where there's a will, there's a way.
Oh yeah.
And it was making me think of like stuff that I've done where I've like tried to start doing it, and I start hitting these like little blocks, or these little oh my gosh, this isn't working, or I thought this, or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, I remember this time where, and I think this is very common with women anyways. I think some women, where it's like, you're so much stronger physically when your husband's not home. Versus when he is home.
Interesting.
So like I remember this one time I was trying to move this really big dresser, and it was really heavy. It was solid wood, it was really, really heavy. And I was like, I need to rearrange now. I need to do it now. And he's not here to help me. And I tried doing it, and it was so heavy. And I was like, man, I don't know if I can do it. And then I was like, you know what? No, I can totally do this. So I figured out a way, and I put a big sheet on the floor, and I put it under the legs, and I pulled the sheet, and the dresser was like,
of course,
it was slowly moving. But I know that if he was home, I would have been like, can you help me? I can't do it. I need your help. And it's funny because this concept is so true. It's like when you hit that obstacle, you basically have some choices to make.
Exactly.
Am I going to let it stop me? Am I going to let it not let me achieve it? Or am I going to figure this out?
Yes, exactly.
So I think that's something that we all have the ability to do if we want it bad enough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's interesting because You know, I like to do projects.
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, I did like a game room in our house.
Yeah.
Because it used to be a playroom for the
For the
grandkids.
little kids.
But now it's a playroom for the big kids.
We got preteens. We got preteens coming up and adults that like to play.
Yeah. So anyhow, I developed this idea, and I said, well, I'm gonna start. You know,
Yeah.
so I had to remove all the toys of the kids, and
Yeah.
you know, do certain things. But you know, every time you have an idea, you have to deal with some obstacles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I want to put this thing here, but guess what? It's a dry wall. It doesn't have any support. So now I'm gonna hang this. How do I hang it here so it stays? It's an obstacle.
Yeah.
You don't back up and say, "Oh no, then
Yeah.
I won't do it."
No, I'm canceling it
And
all.
so it's interesting because overcoming obstacles really has to do with 3 critical disciplines, which is, you know, sounds fancy, but it's really not that fancy. And it's basically, he talks about 3 things. He talks about to get through and to go through the obstacle, you need to have a healthy perception
Yeah, that
of
makes
what's
sense. Makes
around you.
total sense.
Number
Yeah.
2, you need to take action. Simple.
Yeah.
And you have to have a strong will.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to say, no matter what,
You have to
I'm not
choose
done
to-
until I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
not quitting until I get there.
Yeah.
You know, you got to have that resolve.
That's so good.
So, because obstacles are not only expected, but
They're inevitable.
gonna happen.
Yeah, they're inevitable.
so you might as well embrace it.
Yeah. Oh no, totally. And I think that these little steps are so they're super methodical too. You know, perception has to do with how you see things. You know,
Yeah.
how you take in your situation, your mindset about it. You know, when you are faced with that obstacle,
Yeah.
your first choice is, how am I going to see this?
Exactly.
You know, and how you see it,
Yeah.
it will affect how you act.
100%.
Yeah, so I think that's really important to
100%.
unpack, you know, that, and to really ask yourself,
Yeah.
you know, because you have the power to choose how you're going to see that
Exactly.
obstacle when it comes up.
Yeah. Well, and even the Bible talks about how we perceive things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How we think about
yeah.
things.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
It's
in
huge.
fact, in the book of Romans, chapter 12, verse 2, it says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So the way you think about things determines how you act about things.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
How you behave about things.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the things that we also see is that the Bible says in Proverbs, as a man thinks, so is he.
So is he. Oh, yeah.
And so whatever
Totally.
you think of your obstacle is going to determine what you do about it.
Yes.
Or what you don't do about
Oh,
it.
100%.
You know?
100%. That is a starting point of overcoming any obstacle, you know, and I think it's important to find the tools that, you know, work well with how you're made as a person.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's like, you know, just like sometimes for me it has to do with talking to someone
Oh, sure.
and telling them, okay, this is what
This
I'm
is what's
facing.
so you
you know,
talk
like
through it.
yeah, what do you see? Obviously, like a person that's gonna help me,
Of
not
course.
someone that's gonna,
Of
you know,
course.
wallow in it with me. You know.
Sure, sure.
But that helps me. You know, sometimes reading a book will help you, depending on what the obstacle
Yeah.
is. You know, sometimes simply doing research that maybe you didn't do beforehand. You
That's
know,
correct, yeah.
you know. So I think, and it could even just be positive affirmations. It depends what the obstacle
Yeah.
is, but you have to take power over your mindset
Yes.
when you're faced with that, and you
Exactly.
can't just let your mind be lazy, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting because in reality, what the point behind this principle is that the obstacle is truly the opportunity.
Yeah, yeah, that's so good.
And when you
Yeah.
realize that,
Yeah.
then you don't have a negative perspective about the obstacle.
Yeah, that's really
Because
good.
the thing is, when people see an obstacle, most of the time they think of pain.
Yeah.
They think, oh man,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to do this again, or now I'm gonna have to do that, and
Yeah.
now it's gonna be harder,
Right.
you know, and people tend to move away from anything that's painful.
Yeah. Right.
You know,
Yeah.
that's why we all procrastinate.
Oh yeah. Or I think even it could propose like a sense of what if I don't do it? Like
Yeah.
failure.
Exactly.
You know, like what
Sure.
if I try and it doesn't work?
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
it, and those things will
Yeah.
cripple you.
Fear.
Yeah, that fear,
anxiety.
yeah.
Self-doubt.
Oh man, I
you
think
know,
that's a huge one
insecurity.
also.
I mean,
yeah.
there's a lot of stuff that can get in the way, which actually brings me to the question, well, how do we overcome these things then? Okay? And I think that's where he's getting at here. You have to have the right perspective in order to be able to keep moving forward.
That's right.
And
yeah.
I think that is we all have the power to reframe
Yeah.
what we see
Yeah.
and how we see it.
I was just going to ask you, what do you think are some practical ways to do that reframing? You know, like what, like when we're going through life and an obstacle comes up our way, you know, what are practical steps that we can stop and say, okay, instead of me looking at this as a roadblock, a stumbling point, how can I turn this around and have this right perspective? Like, how do we do that? What do you think?
That's a big question.
I know, because I was thinking like, okay, how do you practically do that? Do you just have to like stop and literally change your mindset about it, or do you have to, you know, what are some good tools
I
you
think there's
that
a
we
few
could
things
do?
to keep in mind when you're facing what you might think are insurmountable obstacles,
right.
you know. And I think he gives a list. He says one of them is you have to learn to stay objective.
That's good.
You know,
Yeah.
when the obstacle shows up, your tendency might be automatically to think, "Oh man, we got a problem here. This is negative."
Yeah. Okay.
So try to stay objective.
Okay.
You know, maybe ask yourself, how can this help?
Yeah.
You know, maybe this is going to make me think outside the box.
Yeah.
Maybe this is going to make me explore
Right.
some other
That's good.
alternatives
That's
that I
good.
would have never thought about.
That's really good. Yeah.
So stay objective. Try to see how you can give it a positive spin.
That's good.
Control your emotions.
Yeah. Oh.
You know, try to keep an even keel.
Oh my gosh, I think that's a huge one for sure. Controlling your emotions. I think like sometimes our emotions get the best of us. You know,
Yeah.
like our emotions, we allow the space too, I think sometimes for our emotions to take over.
Yeah.
Like purposeful thinking, if that makes sense. You know?
Yeah.
And emotions are good to have because
Sure.
those are signals your body is giving you, and you know that's a part of life. God created us like that, but I think we have to find that balance of like halting certain emotions to say, okay, yes, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Yes, I'm feeling this. Yes, I'm feeling that.
Yeah.
However, do I want to just stay that way, or do I want to try to be objective about this and look at this differently, and you know whatever. So those are good.
And I think what a lot of people can benefit from seeing the connection between their emotions and your thought life, because it's your thought life that produces your emotions.
Yeah, that's really good.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
if you're emotional and you know, like it happens sometimes, we're feeling overwhelmed or sad or depressed or whatever, you know, it's 100% due to your thought life.
Oh yeah, that's so true.
So what when he's saying is try to control your emotions, you really are saying try to control the way you think about the
way
obstacle.
you think about it. Yeah, that's really good. That's so good. It reminds me of last year we had a fire in our kitchen, and it was this whole thing. It was very stressful. And long story short, when we finally got to the renovation part, which was the fun part, well, stressful, but also fun, there was this point where, you know, we ran into different obstacles. And there was a big obstacle where we wanted to put like these lights under the cabinets because we had regular cabinets and we changed them to floating shelves. But then we had a cabinet over here that wasn't affected by the fire. So they were.
And you already had wires coming out of the wall. That was already set.
Right. We had these wires poking out of the wall. And so we were like, So originally the contractor was like, yeah, we can put the lights in the same area that they were,
Okay.
you know, under the floating shelves.
Right.
And because that's where they were,
Right.
instead of now the cabinets. So long story short, when we got into everything, we were like, we can't put the lights there. And there were still, like, the shelves were up, the tile was all laid, and we had the wire sticking out of the wall for the lights to connect the lights.
Right.
And then they were.
But why were they saying they can't put the lights there?
Because you were gonna see the lights. We were changing them to LED lights because of the floating shelf. So they were supposed to do something that they didn't do. And so anyways, it was this whole obstacle.
Okay.
So we were there, and I was like, well, I want the lights because I use those lights all the time.
And you got to see what you're doing there.
It's a dim setting that I can put in the morning, you know, blah, blah, blah. And so we were there. It was me and my husband, and it was the contractor, and it was his wife, and it was the guys doing the work, and there was like 6 of us in there trying to figure this out. We're like, okay, what if we do this? What if we put it back here? Da, 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 da. So it was this obstacle, and then I was like, well, what if we put it under this main area where the hood is instead of on the sides, you know? And I was like, can we do that? And so everyone was kind of like, and then one of the workers in Spanish, he said, oh, we can do anything. And I was like, okay, I like that guy, you know? And so then they started exploring. Oh, okay. They opened the doors and they were like, yeah, we can do it here. We got to go up to the attic and run this and do that and da-da-da-da. And so all that to say, like, the obstacle was
the weight.
Where we figured out how to do this. You know what I'm saying?
Awesome?
And that's a huge, like, that parallels to our life situations as well. We think we're going to do it like this, and then we run into this thing, and we're like, hold up. You know, how can we look at this differently?
You discovered a whole new alternative.
Yeah, and then, like, when that guy said in Spanish, like, oh, we can do anything. You know, I'm like, yes, we can do anything I want.
I like the guy. I like the way this guy
you know,
thinks.
yeah, and then they were like, yeah, we can do this. And then everybody, like, got behind it, and boom, it happened.
And that's the principle. The obstacle in the path becomes the path.
Yes.
And most people run away
from that. And
we can't do it. Okay, forget it.
And honestly, I think when you push through those obstacles, it makes the result 10 times better than what maybe your original idea was.
Oh, absolutely.
You know? And I think that don't shy away from those things, because that's where something really beautiful can be created.
So we could really say with confidence, obstacles are a good thing.
Yeah, and they're opportunities.
Yeah, exactly.
They're opportunities.
And so the what he's saying is that our perception are the things that are the only things that we have complete control of.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
Which is to say that we are never powerless.
Yeah.
We're never powerless.
Good. That's so good.
And so the other thing that he says to choose to see the good in every situation.
Oh man, that's
so
good.
What do you do when you seem to be facing insurmountable obstacle? You choose to see the good in every situation.
You know what? It is something that I would love to say that I do all the time, but I don't do that all the time. You know, and I think that everyone has their things.
Of course.
You know, like some people it's easier for than others. You know,
right.
And I think there's definitely some things that I'm like, there's something good's going to come out of this. And then, you know, you kind of feel like it's nothing good is coming.
Can anything good come out of Nazareth?
You know, and you're like, okay, where's it? Maybe nothing good is coming, you know? And I think that it is difficult sometimes to genuinely believe it.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's one thing to say it.
Of course.
But then to genuinely believe it, especially in really hard
But think about
obstacles.
Even the Bible says something about that.
Oh,
the Bible says all things come together.
That's right.
And work out something good.
Yeah.
For those who love the Lord and have been called.
Oh yeah.
You know, so we know that really we could be at peace and say, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, something good's going to come out of all of this.
Yeah.
we have the promise of God.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's a big comfort for me.
Yeah.
Because man, when I'm in some hot waters, I'm going like, okay, God, I'm counting on you to get me through here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I do think that is a key element to being able to push through those obstacles.
Absolutely.
Is, you know, standing on what you know God is working for you, even if you don't know exactly what it is. And we had to do that a lot with this whole fire and kitchen situation. And it was a tough year for us last year, you know, with all that stuff. And you just have to stand on those, even if you don't feel like you're seeing it.
Exactly.
You know, because God is true to himself, that you can stand on that. Okay, the good is coming. I don't see it yet, but it's coming.
Exactly.
It's somewhere, you know. And I think that's really important to being able to push through.
And you know, I think that even our mistakes are part of how we learn. You know, so it's like some people, oh, well, you know, I don't know. I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to fail. You know, I mean, we all have some of those fears, but you know, what he's saying is steady your nerves.
Yeah, that's good.
Steady your nerves. It's so easy to get emotional. It's so easy to get fearful. It's so easy to get full of anxiety.
Oh, man,
And it's not that those emotions are bad.
Right.
Those emotions have their place.
Right.
But it's bad to be governed by them.
Well, yeah, you don't want to live in that state.
Yeah.
You know, nobody does. And I think that that's huge when trying to overcome and push through obstacles. Is making that deliberate choice to not allow your mindset to stay in that place of anxiousness and stress and overwhelming, because then it does cripple you to push.
Exactly.
You know, it's hard to push through the obstacles when you're allowing your mindset to stay there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the last thing that we want to say, he says, focus on what can be controlled. And guess what?
That's good.
I can't control
good.
hardly anything in life, but I can control my perception and I can control my emotions because I have the power and authority to exercise control over my thought life.
That's so good.
And that is one big element that helps us to go through the obstacle.
Yeah, I love that.
Is that I could be intentional. I can tear down vain imaginations.
Right.
I could take captive everything that rises up itself against me. You know, I have tools.
Yeah.
But to recognize that the obstacle in the way is actually the way.
Right.
And we press right through that obstacle
Yeah.
and get to come out on the other side victorious.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good. Focus on what can be controlled. That is a hard thing to do sometimes, but if you think about it, that's where you are empowered to get the results that you want to get. Because you can control yourself, your perception, your thought life. You know, no one else can control that.
No one else.
It's so funny. My husband always says, like, you know, I mean, I've gotten a lot better at it, but sometimes I'd be like, well, you made me feel this. And he'll look at me and he'll say, I'm sorry, I didn't make you feel anything.
That's right.
Now, I want to hear how you feel.
That's right.
But I didn't make you feel that.
That's right. You're responsible for that.
And I'm like, okay, fine, you know. But it's true. Like, you know, you can feel something, but it is when it boils down to the very bottom of it, like that is your decision as well. You know, perception
it's
plays
funny
into that.
because Theodore Roosevelt said, what a man needs is not so much courage, but nerve control, cool-headedness.
Oh man, yeah.
This he can get only by practice.
By practice. Oh man.
So you know what? We got to practice this stuff. We got to practice this stuff.
Yeah.
But here's the bottom line.
Yeah.
When you're engaged in a project and you hit an obstacle, you just need to say, hallelujah. I'm getting some higher dimension revelation of how to solve this problem.
Here comes the better way.
Here comes divine way.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. And
it'll work in your favor instead of against you.
That's good. I love
if you let
that.
it.
Yeah.
Well, anyhow, I hope that's been encouraging.
Yes.
I hope that it's lifted your spirits. And until then, we're going to continue on this subject. We're going to talk about some other ways in which we can overcome the obstacles.
Yeah, get a little deeper.
So God bless you. Thank you for being at The Drop.
See you next week.